Hey guys, tonight we re-diving into the wonders and chaos of Greek mythology, the stories that shaped ancient Greece and still captivate us today. Imagine a time when the universe was nothing but a swirling void of darkness, a place where gods were born from the very fabric of chaos itself, and the world as we know it was sculpted by their battles, loves, and tragedies. It's a world where you definitely wouldn't survive long unless, of course, you had a god on your side. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The story begins in darkness absolute, endless darkness. The ancient Greeks called it chaos, not the kind of chaos you find in a messy room or a Monday morning, but a yawning chasm of nothingness. From this void, the first primordial beings emerged, like sparks flickering in the dark. There was Gaia, the earth, solid and nurturing; Uranus, the sky, vast and protective; and Nyx, the mysterious goddess of night, who you'd probably want to avoid meeting in a dark alley. Gaia, ever the multitasker, gave birth to mountains, seas, and even Uranus himself. Yes, that's right, she literally created her own husband. If that sounds awkward, just wait, because Greek mythology is about to get a whole lot weirder. Together, Gaia and Uranus had a brood of children, the Titans, who were massive, powerful beings representing natural forces like the ocean, the sun, and time itself. But not all of Gaia's children were quite so majestic. Among them were the Cyclopes, one-eyed blacksmiths with a knack for forging weapons, and the Hecatonchires, giants with 100 hands each. Imagine trying to shake hands with one of those guys. It'd take all day. Uranus, however, wasn't exactly thrilled with these monstrous offspring. In fact, he was terrified of them. So, in a move that would make any modern parent look like a saint, he locked them deep within Gaia's body, refusing to let them see the light of day. Gaia, understandably furious, decided it was time to take matters into her own hands, or roots, as it were. She crafted a great sickle from stone and called upon her Titan children to overthrow their tyrannical father. Only one of them, Cronus, had the guts, or maybe just the ambition, to step up. Cronus waited until Uranus descended to embrace Gaia, and with a swift and brutal strike, he overthrew his father, severing his power in more ways than one. From Uranus's spilled blood sprang new life, because in Greek mythology, even violence is weirdly fertile. The Erinyes, or Furies, were born to avenge crimes, while the giants and nymphs also emerged, adding to the growing roster of mythological beings. With Uranus dethroned, Cronus became the new ruler of the cosmos. But if you're thinking this is where the story calms down, think again. Cronus, paranoid that his own children might one day overthrow him, decided to take extreme precautions. Every time his wife, Rhea, gave birth, he swallowed the newborn whole. That's right, straight down the hatch. Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia all ended up as snacks. Well, almost all of them. When Rhea gave birth to a younger Zeus, she'd had enough of Cronus's less than stellar parenting. She wrapped a stone in swaddling clothes and handed it to Cronus, who, not being the sharpest Titan, swallowed it without question. Meanwhile, baby Zeus was whisked away to a hidden cave on the island of Crete, where he was raised in secret. Here's a quirky tidbit for you. Legend has it that Zeus' cries were drowned out by a group of noisy warriors called the who clashed their shields together to keep Cronus from hearing the baby. Historians still argue whether this detail was meant to highlight the cleverness of Rhea, or just serve as an ancient explanation for why people bang pots and pans during celebrations. As Zeus grew older, he began to plot his father's downfall. With the help of Metis, a clever goddess of wisdom, he tricked Cronus into drinking a potion that caused him to vomit up all the children he'd swallowed. And yes, they were all perfectly fine, because apparently digestion works differently for Titans. Now reunited, Zeus and his siblings declared war on Cronus and the other Titans. This epic conflict, known as the Titanomachy, would rage for 10 years, with the Olympians eventually emerging victorious. But that's a tale for the next section. For now, imagine the cosmos slowly shifting from the chaos of the Titans to the order of the Olympians. As Zeus prepares to claim his throne on Mount Olympus, It's like they read my mind. But seriously, how did they know I needed some serious R&R? Because honey, we are just getting started. You know how you feel when you've been stressed for a while, and then you get a break, pure bliss. That's what the gods must have felt like, because after a serious bout of world-ending chaos, it was time for a vacation. And not just any vacation. Oh no, a 5-star trip to the land of the Hyperboreans. Probably. Oh, okay. Let's backtrack a bit. Remember our dear friend Cronus, the leader of the Titans? Well, after Zeus filled him with some tasty ambrosia and wine, they had a little chat. Zeus laid out the plan to overthrow his pop, Uranus, and Cronus, unable to say no to that sweet blackmail, agreed to help. So off they went to seek out Uranus's weapon stash, which happened to be in a cave guarded by some really tough dudes. Now, if you remember, these guys had 50 arms and 50 heads sprouting from each shoulder, making them a bit of a handful. Cronus and his crew tried to free them, but those big-lugged titans weren't strong enough. So who else could do the trick? Well, enter the sneaky Cyclops, one-eyed giants with incredible craftsmanship skills. The titans knocked them out, stuck them in some caves, and then took their shiny new weapons. Score 1 for the titans, right? Wrong. The Cyclops were pretty bummed about being put in a cave, so they made a deal with Zeus. If he freed them, they'd hook him up with a super special weapon. Now, if you're curious about what kind of special, I'm talking epic, life-changing special. Well, stick around because things are about to get seriously amped up. Those Cyclopes were true to their word and crafted some truly awesome weapons for Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. Zeus received the mighty thunderbolt, which he used to unleash bolts of lightning that could strike from miles away. Poseidon got the trident, a magical spear that could shake the earth and control the seas. And Hades, well, he got the helm of darkness, which allowed him to become invisible, disappearing into thin air like magic. These weapons weren't just fancy accessories. They were extensions of the gods' powers, making them stronger and more feared than ever before. Now, you might think that this is where the story ends, but you're just getting to the good part. Picture this, the Olympians versus the Titans, armed to the teeth and ready to rumble. The battle was fierce, a clash between the old guard and the new generation, between tradition and change. The Titans, led by Kronos, were a formidable force, but the Olympian, fueled by their fancy new weapons and righteous anger, fought back with everything they had. Zeus hurled thunderbolts that cracked the sky, Poseidon raised tsunamis that crashed over the Titans, and Hades, with his invisibility powers, struck at Cronus again and again, chipping away at his strength. The Titans weren't having it though. They fought back with all their might, and the earth trembled beneath their feet as they traded blows. But despite their best efforts, the Titans couldn't withstand the Olympian onslaught. One by one, they fell, their strength failing them against the combined might of the Olympians. Finally, it was down to Cronus and a few loyal followers. Seeing the writing on the wall, Cronus made a run for it, escaping to the far corners of the earth. But his flight was short-lived. The Olympians were hot on his trail, determined to bring him down. In the end, Cronus and his fellow Titans were banished to the underworld, trapped in the dark abyss of Tartarus, forever out of reach of the mortal world. And that, my friends, is a major bummer. But you know what? The Olympians had claimed victory and were now in charge of the cosmos, so they threw a party. Now, I don't mean a small, intimate gathering. I'm talking about a full-blown bash, a celebration of their hard-earned victory and the dawn of a new era. The gods feasted and drank, they sang and danced, and they bickered and schemed, because let's face it, even gods need to let off some steam. As the party raged on, the future of the cosmos hung in the balance. The Titans defeated, the Cyclopes and Hecatonchires appeased, and a new order established. The Olympians had won, but their reign was just beginning. And with that, we come to the end of our session today. Join us next time as we continue our journey through the world of Greek mythology. Until then, remember, the gods may be immortal, but their problems are all too human. Thanks for tuning in, and let us know what you think. See you soon. The great Titan War is over. The mighty Atlas is pinned beneath the sky. The monstrous Typhon is slain. The sea is calm, the earth is still, and all the Olympian gods are celebrating, right? Well, not exactly. You see, even though the gods won, not everyone's happy with how the piece is going. Sure, the Olympians have claimed victory, But the war wasn't just about land and power. It was about loyalty, family, and most importantly, trust. And some Olympians are starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, they don't know each other all that well. Take Prometheus, for instance, one of the few titans who sided with Zeus during the war. You'd think that would earn him a cushy spot in the new regime, right? Well, not quite. See, Prometheus had a soft spot for humans, and that put him on a collision course with Zeus, our god, who was exactly known for his warm and fuzzy feelings toward mortals. Here's the thing about humans in Greek mythology. They started off as a bit of an afterthought. The gods created them, sure, but they were weak, vulnerable, and completely at the mercy of nature. Prometheus, whose name literally means forethought, saw their potential. He believed that with the right tools, humanity could rise above its humble beginnings. But Zeus wasn't so sure. He liked the idea of humans staying in their lanes, more obedient and completely dependent on the gods. So while Prometheus doled out wisdom and guidance, Zeus kept a watchful eye, waiting for humanity to prove itself. And boy, did they ever. Let's just say the less supervision, the better. Anyway, Prometheus decided to take matters into his own hands. First, he taught humans basic survival skills, how to hunt, build shelters, and make tools. But there was one thing they still lacked, one thing that could truly change their fate: fire. Fire was the ultimate game changer. It meant warmth in the cold, light in the darkness, and the ability to cook food. It also meant power, something Zeus wasn't keen on sharing. He forbade humans from having fire, declaring it a divine gift that only the gods could wield. Prometheus, being the rebel he was, didn't let that stop him. One night, he snuck up to Mount Olympus, where the gods kept their sacred flame. He lit a torch, some say from the chariot of the sun itself, and carried it down to earth, delivering it to humanity. Imagine the first flicker of fire in the darkness, the way it must have transformed the night into something less terrifying, more alive. For humans, it was nothing short of a miracle, but for Prometheus, it was the beginning of a nightmare. Zeus, furious at this act of defiance, decided to make an example of him. He ordered Prometheus to be chained to a rocky cliff in the Caucasus Mountains, where he would suffer a punishment as creative as it was brutal. Every day, a giant eagle would swoop down and tear into Prometheus's liver, feasting on it as he writhed in agony. And every night, his liver would regenerate, ensuring the torment could start all over again the next day. Here is a quirky tidbit. The ancient Greeks believed the liver was the seat of human emotions and desires. So in a way, Zeus's punishment wasn't just physical, it was symbolic, a way of attacking the very essence of what made Prometheus who he was. Now, you might be wondering, why didn't any of the other gods step in to help? Well, Zeus wasn't exactly the kind of guy you wanted to cross. Even so, Prometheus's story wasn't entirely without hope. Over time, his defiance became a symbol of resistance, a reminder that even the mightiest rulers could be challenged. And eventually, Prometheus did find a savior, Heracles, Zeus's own son. On one of his many adventures, Heracles stumbled across the suffering Titan and decided to intervene. With a well-aimed arrow, he killed the eagle that tormented Prometheus and shattered the chains that bound him. Zeus, surprisingly, allowed this act of mercy, perhaps because by then Prometheus had suffered enough, or maybe because Zeus had bigger things to worry about. But Prometheus's legacy didn't end there. His gift of fire marked the beginning of humanity's rise, a moment when mortals began to take control of their own destiny. Of course, fire wasn't without its dangers. It could burn as easily as it could warm, destroy as easily as it could create. It's a fitting metaphor for the double-edged nature of progress, something the Greeks understood all too well. And then there's the matter of Prometheus's brother, Epimetheus, whose name means afterthought. If Prometheus was the clever one, Epimetheus was, well, let's just say he wasn't winning any prizes for foresight. While Prometheus was busy helping humanity, Epimetheus was making a mistake that would change the world forever. You see, Zeus wasn't content with punishing Prometheus. He wanted to teach humanity a lesson too. So, he came up with a plan, a trap disguised as a gift. He ordered Hephaestus, the god of craftsmanship, to create the first woman, a being so beautiful and enchanting that no mortal or god could resist her. She was named Pandora, which means all gifted, because each god contributed something to her creation. Athena gave her wisdom, Aphrodite gave her beauty, and Hermes gave her cunning. But Zeus also gave her something else, a juror, as it's often mistranslated, a box. This container held all the evils of the world: disease, despair, war, and countless other misfortunes. Zeus sent Pandora to Epimetheus, who, despite his brother's warnings, accepted her without question. Curiosity got the better of Pandora, and one day she opened the jar. Out flew all the evils, spreading across the world and into the hearts of humanity. It was a moment of chaos, a reminder that even the most well-intentioned actions can have unintended consequences. But not everything in the jar was terrible. At the very bottom, one thing remained: hope. The Greeks had a complicated relationship with hope. Was it a blessing, a light in the darkness? Or was it just another form of torment, a way to keep humanity striving for something it could never truly achieve? Historians still debate the meaning of Pandora's story, but one thing is clear: it's a tale that captures the complexity of human existence, the way joy and sorrow are always intertwined. And so, as the smoke from Prometheus's stolen fire rises into the heavens, and Pandora's jar lies empty, save for hope, humanity takes its first steps into a world shaped by both gods and their own choices. It's a world of light and shadow, of creation and destruction, a world that's only just beginning to unfold. Welcome to my channel. I'm your host. We've been exploring the vast and vibrant world of Greek mythology, and we're continuing our journey today with another captivating episode. But before we dive into the myths that shaped a civilization, if you're new here and you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button to join our growing community of myth and legend enthusiasts. And don't forget to stay updated with the latest episodes. Now let us embark on an adventure through time and uncover the stories that have captivated humanity for millennia. Let's start with one of the most famous myths of all time, the story of Persephone, the queen of the underworld. After the Titanomachy, a 10-year war between the Titans and the gods emerged victorious and claimed their places as rulers of the cosmos. But not all was well in the world. Pandora, who had been created by the gods as a punishment for mankind's curiosity, had opened a jar containing all the evils of the world. Now despair, sickness, and death plagued humanity. Only hope remained trapped inside the jar. To alleviate mankind's suffering, Zeus sent his son Hermes to retrieve hope. Meanwhile, the gods decided to divide the earth among themselves. Gaia, the earth goddess, was given control of the land, while Poseidon, god of the sea, was granted dominion over the oceans. But what would become of the underworld? Hades, the gloomy realm of the dead, was no one's first choice. In fact, even Hades' father, Cronus, had attempted to swallow his youngest son to prevent him from overthrowing, just as he had done to his father, Uranus. However, Hades was rescued and thrown into Tartarus, the deepest part of the underworld, where he remained for 5 years until his brothers rescued him. Still, no one wanted to rule the underworld. That was until Hades laid claim to it. As compensation, the gods granted him Persephone, the daughter of Demeter, goddess of agriculture, as his bride. Persephone was beautiful beyond compare, and Hades, smitten by her beauty, decided to make her his queen. However, he had no intention of asking her father for her hand in marriage. No, Hades preferred a more direct approach. As Persephone was gathering flowers with her companions, Hades emerged from the ground in his chariot drawn by black horses and snatched her away. Persephone's pleas for help were ignored, and her cries echoed through the underworld as Hades brought her to his dark and dismal palace. Demeter, frantic with worry, roamed the earth searching for her daughter. So distraught was she that the world began to suffer. Crops withered, animals perished, and starvation loomed on the horizon. Zeus, recognizing that Demeter's grief was threatening to engulf the world, dispatched Hermes to the underworld to retrieve Persephone. Upon reaching Hades' court, Hermes found Persephone sitting on a nearby stone, having eaten pomegranate seeds. Hades informed Hermes that if Persephone had eaten any part of the pomegranate, she was bound to the underworld forever. Sure enough, Persephone had eaten 6 seeds. A compromise was reached. Persephone would spend 1/3 of each year with her mother, Demeter, on the surface, bringing warmth and growth to the land, and the remaining 2/3 of the year she would return to the underworld to be with Hades. Thus, the cycle of seasons was born. Spring and summer were joyous times when Persephone returned to the world of the living, while autumn and winter brought sorrow as she had to bid farewell to her mother once again. This myth not only explains the changing seasons, but also highlights the importance of compromise and the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. Next, let's turn our attention to the heroic deeds of Heracles, the legendary demigod. Born of Zeus and the mortal Alcmena, Heracles was destined for greatness. His early life was marked by tragedy. Hera, Zeus's jealous wife, sent 2 serpents to kill Heracles in his sleep, but the infant Heracles strangled out the serpents to death. As Heracles grew, so did his strength, but it was a strength that would lead to great turmoil. In a fit of rage, Hera drove Heracles mad, causing him to slay his wife and children. Consumed by guilt and despair, Heracles sought redemption. The oracle of Delphi advised him to serve King Eurystheus, who devised 12 seemingly impossible tasks known as the 12 labors of Heracles. These tasks included slaying the Nemean lion, capturing the Erymanthian boar, cleaning King Ajax's stables in a single day, and stealing the golden apples of the Hesperids. Through his courage, strength, and quick wit, Heracles accomplished all 12 labors. Along his journey, he encountered mythical creatures and heroes, facing challenges that tested his limits. His adventures took him to the ends of the earth, from the depths of the underworld to the gardens of the Hesperids. Throughout his labors, Heracles was aided by his divine strength, but he was also helped by other gods and goddesses, including Athena, who provided him with a magical cloak, and Hermes, who gave him winged sandals. However, Hera continued to hinder his progress, sending serpents, vultures, and other creatures to test his resolve. Despite the obstacles, Heracles pressed on, determined to complete his labors and regain his honor. As the son of Zeus, Heracles possessed immortality, but he chose to sacrifice this gift in order to atone for the death of his family. Near the end of his life, he was poisoned by a tunic infused with the blood of the monster Lernaean Hydra. Realizing his end was near, Heracles built a funeral pyre and set it ablaze, ascending to Mount Olympus, where he reunited with his father and became a god. Heracles' story is one of immense power, but it's also a tale of tragedy, sacrifice, and ultimate triumph. His life and labors have inspired countless works of art and literature, cementing his status as a true hero. We've journeyed through the realms of the gods, encountering the likes of Hades and Persephone, and we've witnessed the heroic feats of Heracles. Each myth is a testament to the creativity and storytelling prowess of the ancient Greeks. Their ability to weave tales that explored the complexities of the human condition, as well as the mysteries of the natural world, continues to captivate us today. If you enjoyed this journey through Greek mythology, please remember to show your support. Your engagement helps us continue to bring these fascinating myths to life for you. And now it's time to hear from you. Which myth resonated with you the most and why? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We can't wait to read your responses. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring the world of mythology, and remember, the realm of the gods is always with us. Welcome to my channel. I'm your host. We've been exploring the vast and vibrant world of Greek mythology, and we're continuing our journey today with another captivating episode. But before we dive into the myths that shaped a civilization, if you're new here and you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button to join our growing community of myth and legend enthusiasts. And don't forget to stay updated with the latest episodes. Now let us embark on an adventure through time and uncover the stories that have captivated humanity for millennia. Let's start with one of the most famous myths of all time, the story of Persephone, the queen of the underworld. After the Titanomachy, a 10-year war between the Titans and the gods emerged victorious and claimed their places as rulers of the cosmos. But not all was well in the world. Pandora, who had been created by the gods as a punishment for mankind's curiosity, had opened a jar containing all the evils of the world. Now despair, sickness, and death plagued humanity. Only hope remained trapped inside the jar. To alleviate mankind's suffering, Zeus sent his son Hermes to retrieve hope. Meanwhile, the gods decided to divide the earth among themselves. Gaia, the earth goddess, was given control of the land, while Poseidon, god of the sea, was granted dominion over the oceans. But what would become of the underworld? Hades, the gloomy realm of the dead, was no one's first choice. In fact, even Hades' father, Cronus, had attempted to swallow his youngest son to prevent him from overthrowing, just as he had done to his father, Uranus. However, Hades was rescued and thrown into Tartarus, the deepest part of the underworld, where he remained for 5 years until his brothers rescued him. Still, no one wanted to rule the underworld. That was until Hades laid claim to it. As compensation, the gods granted him Persephone, the daughter of Demeter, goddess of agriculture, as his bride. Persephone was beautiful beyond compare, and Hades, smitten by her beauty, decided to make her his queen. However, he had no intention of asking her father for her hand in marriage. No, Hades preferred a more direct approach. As Persephone was gathering flowers with her companions, Hades emerged from the ground in his chariot drawn by black horses and snatched her away. Persephone's pleas for help were ignored, and her cries echoed through the underworld as Hades brought her to his dark and dismal palace. Demeter, frantic with worry, roamed the earth searching for her daughter. So distraught was she that the world began to suffer. Crops withered, animals perished, and starvation loomed on the horizon. Zeus, recognizing that Demeter's grief was threatening to engulf the world, dispatched Hermes to the underworld to retrieve Persephone. Upon reaching Hades' court, Hermes found Persephone sitting on a nearby stone, having eaten pomegranate seeds. Hades informed Hermes that if Persephone had eaten any part of the pomegranate, she was bound to the underworld forever. Sure enough, Persephone had eaten 6 seeds. A compromise was reached. Persephone would spend 1/3 of each year with her mother, Demeter, on the surface, bringing warmth and growth to the land, and the remaining 2/3 of the year she would return to the underworld to be with Hades. Thus, the cycle of seasons was born. Spring and summer were joyous times when Persephone returned to the world of the living, while autumn and winter brought sorrow as she had to bid farewell to her mother once again. This myth not only explains the changing seasons, but also highlights the importance of compromise and the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. Next, let's turn our attention to the heroic deeds of Heracles, the legendary demigod. Born of Zeus and the mortal Alcmena, Heracles was destined for greatness. His early life was marked by tragedy. Hera, Zeus's jealous wife, sent 2 serpents to kill Heracles in his sleep, but the infant Heracles strangled out the serpents to death. As Heracles grew, so did his strength, but it was a strength that would lead to great turmoil. In a fit of rage, Hera drove Heracles mad, causing him to slay his wife and children. Consumed by guilt and despair, Heracles sought redemption. The oracle of Delphi advised him to serve King Eurystheus, who devised 12 seemingly impossible tasks known as the 12 labors of Heracles. These tasks included slaying the Nemean lion, capturing the Erymanthian boar, cleaning King Ajax's stables in a single day, and stealing the golden apples of the Hesperids. Through his courage, strength, and quick wit, Heracles accomplished all 12 labors. Along his journey, he encountered mythical creatures and heroes, facing challenges that tested his limits. His adventures took him to the ends of the earth, from the depths of the underworld to the gardens of the Hesperids. Throughout his labors, Heracles was aided by his divine strength, but he was also helped by other gods and goddesses, including Athena, who provided him with a magical cloak, and Hermes, who gave him winged sandals. However, Hera continued to hinder his progress, sending serpents, vultures, and other creatures to test his resolve. Despite the obstacles, Heracles pressed on, determined to complete his labors and regain his honor. As the son of Zeus, Heracles possessed immortality, but he chose to sacrifice this gift in order to atone for the death of his family. Near the end of his life, he was poisoned by a tunic infused with the blood of the monster Lernaean Hydra. Realizing his end was near, Heracles built a funeral pyre and set it ablaze, ascending to Mount Olympus, where he reunited with his father and became a god. Heracles' story is one of immense power, but it's also a tale of tragedy, sacrifice, and ultimate triumph. His life and labors have inspired countless works of art and literature, cementing his status as a true hero. We've journeyed through the realms of the gods, encountering the likes of Hades and Persephone, and we've witnessed the heroic feats of Hera. Each myth is a testament to the creativity and storytelling prowess of the ancient Greeks. Their ability to weave tales that explored the complexities of the human condition, as well as the mysteries of the natural world, continues to captivate us today. If you enjoyed this journey through Greek mythology, please remember to show your support. Your engagement helps us continue to bring these fascinating myths to life for you. And now it's time to hear from you. Which myth resonated with you the most and why? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We can't wait to read your responses. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring the world of mythology, And remember, the realm of the gods is always with us. Hello mortals, welcome to my channel. If you've been living under a rock or just haven't been paying attention, there's a new god in town. And no, it's not me. It's Hades. Now, if you're already hitting the panic button, don't bother. We're not about to be plunged into the underworld. At least I don't think so. We're going to explore the fascinating world of Greek mythology and discover why Hades, the god of the dead, might actually be more popular than you think. As the god of the dead, Hades doesn't exactly have the best reputation. In the popular imagination, he's often portrayed as a gloomy, brooding figure with a penchant for kidnapping unsuspecting maidens and whisking them off to his eternal realm. Thanks to Disney's 1996 animated film, Hades is synonymous with the underworld, a place where the sun never shines, and the only music you hear is the mournful song of the sirens. But what if there's more to Hades than meets the eye? What if he's not just a one-dimensional villain, but a complex, even sympathetic figure? Well, in this series, we'll delve into the myths and legends surrounding Hades and separate fact from fiction. We'll explore the origins of his powers, the nature of his relationship with his wife Persephone, and the myths that have cemented him as one of the most feared and revered gods in the ancient Greek pantheon. So buckle up, mortals, because we're about to go on a wild ride through the halls of hell. Just kidding, sort of. In today's episode, we'll cover his birth, parentage, siblings, and early life. Hades was the son of the Titans Cronus and Rhea, making him the brother of Zeus, Poseidon, Demeter, Hera, and Hestia. When Cronus learned that he was destined to be overthrown by one of his sons, he swallowed each of his children as they were born, keeping them safe from his father Uranus's plan to castrate him and take his power. When it was time for Hades's birth, Cronus, in a fit of anxiety, instead regurgitated his previous victims, starting a war with his father and the other gods of the first generation. Team 2, as you might guess, won, and after the dust settled, it was decided that the Titans would rule the earth. The gods would rule the sky, and Hades would rule the underworld. Not exactly what you were hoping for, but hey, at least he got his own domain. Hades didn't have the option of declining the position. It was expected of him, and besides, ruling the underworld wasn't exactly it was hard, dangerous work that required a strong and decisive leader. Hades was more than up to the task. Despite his gloomy reputation, Hades was a powerful and respected god. He was associated with the earth and the dead, two of the most fundamental aspects of human existence. His domain was vast, encompassing not just the underworld, but also the riches that lay beneath the earth, such as precious metals and gems. This made him a god of wealth and prosperity as well as death and the afterlife. Hades was also a god of the harvest, which may seem surprising given his association with death, but in ancient Greek culture, death and the cycle of nature were closely intertwined. The death of one generation of plants gave way to the growth of another, and Hades was seen as a key part of this process. This duality is reflected in the nature of his consort, Persephone, the daughter of Demeter, the goddess of the seasons and the harvest. Hades' courtship of Persephone is one of the most famous myths in Greek mythology, and while the Disney version has its merits, the original tale is, well, a bit different. In the original myth, Hades abducts Persephone and brings her to the underworld against her will. This makes him seem like a bit of a creep. But it's important to remember that in ancient Greek culture, marriage was a political institution, and the abduction of a bride was a common practice. Hades was not just some random dude. He was the king of the underworld, and Persephone was an appropriate bride for him. She was a powerful and respected goddess in her own right, and her union with Hades symbolized the connection between the natural world and the world of the dead. And that's it for now, folks. Join me next time when we'll continue exploring the world of Hades and separating myth from reality. Until then, remember, don't trust the pretty flowers. They might be trying to lure you into a never-ending nap. Or are they? You decide. Greek mythology doesn't just stop with epic wars, heroic journeys, and divine drama. It also dives deeply into the human condition, exploring themes of love, tragedy, and fate. At the heart of many myths lies the idea that no matter how powerful you are, you cannot escape destiny. The concept of fate personified by the three fates, or morae, is central to Greek mythology. The fates were three ancient goddesses who controlled the thread of life for every mortal, and even the gods themselves. Clotho spun the thread, Lachesis measured its length, and Atropos cut it, ending a life when the time came. Not even Zeus could defy their decisions, which made them some of the most powerful beings in the cosmos. Their presence in the myths serves as a reminder that even the gods are bound by forces greater than themselves. One of the most poignant examples of fate in Greek mythology is the story of Oedipus, a tale that has fascinated audiences for centuries. Oedipus's life was marked by a prophecy that foretold he would kill his father and marry his mother, a horrifying fate that his parents, King Laius and Queen Jocasta of Thebes, tried desperately to avoid. To prevent the prophecy from coming true, they abandoned their infant son, leaving him to die on a mountainside. But fate had other plans. Oedipus was rescued by a shepherd and raised by the king and queen of Corinth, who told him nothing of his true origins. Years later, Oedipus learned of the prophecy and, believing the king and queen of Corinth to be his real parents, fled to avoid harming them. On his journey, he encountered a man at a crossroads and, after a heated argument, killed him unaware that the man was his biological father. King Laius. Oedipus continued to Thebes, where he solved the riddle of the Sphinx and was hailed as a hero. As a reward, he was given the throne of Thebes and married the widowed queen, his mother. The prophecy had come true, despite every attempt to prevent it. When the truth was finally revealed, the consequences were devastating. Jocasta took her own life, and Oedipus, overcome with guilt and horror, blinded himself and went into exile. His story is a powerful exploration of the inevitability of fate and the tragic consequences of trying to escape it. Another famous tale that touches on fate and tragedy is the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, a myth that combines love, loss, and the thin line between hope and despair. Orpheus, a gifted musician whose songs could move even the gods, fell deeply in love with Eurydice, a beautiful nymph. Their happiness was short-lived. However, as Eurydice died shortly after their wedding, bitten by a venomous snake, heartbroken, Orpheus descended into the underworld to plead for her return. His music was so moving that it softened the hearts of Hades and Persephone, who agreed to let Eurydice return to the living world on one condition: Orpheus must walk ahead of her and not look back until they had both reached the surface. As they climbed toward the light, Orpheus's doubt began to grow. Was Eurydice really behind him? Could he trust the gods to keep their promise? Unable to resist, he turned to look, and in that moment, Eurydice vanished, pulled back into the underworld forever. Orpheus's story is a heartbreaking reminder of the fragility of hope and the weight of human emotion. It's also a testament to the power of art, as Orpheus's music transcended the boundaries between life and death, touching even the gods. But not all myths end in tragedy. Some celebrate the triumph of love and perseverance, like the story of Psyche and Eros. Psyche, a mortal woman of extraordinary beauty, attracted the jealousy of Aphrodite, who sent her son Eros to make Psyche fall in love with a monster. Instead, Eros fell in love with her himself and took her to his palace, where they lived in bliss in one condition: Psyche must never look upon his face. Driven by curiosity and doubt, Psyche broke this rule, and Eros abandoned her. Determined to win him back, Psyche undertook a series of impossible tasks set by Aphrodite, including retrieving water from the river Styx and descending into the underworld to fetch a box of beauty from Persephone. Through her determination and courage, Psyche completed the tasks and was ultimately reunited with Eros. Zeus granted her immortality, allowing her to join Eros as his divine wife. Their story is one of redemption and the transformative power of love, showing that even the gods could be moved by human perseverance. Greek mythology also explores the darker side of human nature, as seen in the story of King Midas. Midas, a wealthy king, was granted a wish by the god Dionysus after showing kindness to one of his followers. Midas wished for everything he touched to turn to gold, a gift that quickly became a curse. At first, Midas was thrilled, turning objects into gold with a mere touch. But his joy turned to horror when he realized he couldn't eat or drink, as his food and wine turned to gold. The final blow came when he accidentally turned his beloved daughter into a golden statue. Desperate to undo the curse, Midas begged Dionysus for help. The god instructed him to wash in the river Pactolus, which carried away the golden touch and restored his daughter to life. Midas's story is a cautionary tale about greed and the dangers of getting exactly what you wish for. From the triumphs of Psyche to the tragedies of Oedipus and Orpheus, Greek mythology is a rich tapestry of human experience, exploring the heights of joy and the depths of despair. These stories remind us that life is a complex mix of triumph and tragedy, love and loss, hope and regret. And though the gods may seem distant, their struggles and flaws mirror our own, showing us that even the divine are not immune to the challenges of existence. In the end, Greek mythology is more than just a collection of stories, it's a reflection of humanity itself, capturing our fears, our dreams, and our endless quest for meaning in a chaotic world. Welcome, friends, to our channel, where today we're going to dive deep into the world of Greek mythology and explore some of its most profound tales. As we delve further into these ancient stories, it's impossible to ignore the stories that wrestle with the profound questions of morality, justice, and the fragility of human existence. Many of these myths center around the concept of hubris, or excessive pride, which the Greeks believed was one of the gravest sins a mortal could commit. Hubris often brought the wrath of the gods, serving as a cautionary tale about the dangers of overstepping one's bounds. One of the most famous examples of hubris is the story of Icarus and Daedalus. Daedalus was a brilliant inventor, known for his ingenious creations, including the labyrinth that housed the But after helping Theseus escape the labyrinth, Daedalus incurred the wrath of King Minos, who imprisoned him and his son, Icarus, on the island of Crete. Determined to escape, Daedalus fashioned 2 sets of wings from feathers and wax, instructing Icarus to fly neither too high nor too low. If he flew too low, the sea's moisture would weigh down the wings. If he flew too high, the sun's heat would melt the wax. At first, Icarus obeyed his father's warnings, but soon he became intoxicated by the thrill of flight. He soared higher and higher, ignoring Daedalus's cries, until the sun's heat melted the wax, holding his wings together. Icarus plummeted into the sea and drowned, leaving Daedalus to mourn his son's tragic end. The story of Icarus is a timeless reminder of the dangers of overreaching, of letting ambition and pride blind us to the limits of our humanity. Another tale of hubris is that of Niobe, the queen of Thebes. Niobe was a mortal woman blessed with wealth, power, and many children, but instead of being grateful, she grew arrogant and mocked the goddess Leto, mother of Apollo and Artemis, for having only 2 children. Niobe boasted that she was superior to Leto because she had more offspring, a claim that deeply offended the gods. In their anger, Apollo and Artemis descended to earth and killed all of Niobe's children. Some versions of the myths say, all but one, leaving her grief-stricken and alone. Overcome with sorrow, Niobe fled to Mount Olympus, where she was turned to stone, her tears forming a stream that flowed endlessly from the rock. Niobe's story is a stark warning about the dangers of pride and disrespecting the gods, as well as a poignant exploration of grief and loss. But hubris wasn't limited to mortals. Even the gods themselves could be guilty of overstepping their bounds, leading to conflicts that shook the heavens. One such story is the Gigantomachy, the war between the Olympian gods and the giants. The giants were born from the blood of Uranus, spilled when he was overthrown by Cronus. They were massive, powerful beings who sought to challenge the rule of Zeus and the Olympians. Led by the fearsome Alcyoneus and Porphyrion, the giants waged war against the gods, hurling mountains and boulders in their bid to seize control of the cosmos. The Olympians, however, were not so easily defeated. With the help of Heracles, a mortal hero whose strength rivaled that of the gods, they managed to turn the tide of battle. Heracles' involvement was crucial, as the giants could only be killed by a combination of mortal and divine effort. One by one, the giants fell, their rebellion crushed, and the Olympians' rule secured. The Gigantomachy is more than just a tale of epic battles. It's a metaphor for the triumph of order over chaos, of civilization over the primal forces of nature. It also serves as a reminder that even the gods must sometimes rely on mortals, highlighting the interconnectedness of the divine and human worlds. Another fascinating exploration of morality and justice in Greek mythology is the story of Sisyphus, a cunning king who dared to defy the gods. Sisyphus was known for his wit and trickery, but his greatest crime was cheating death not once, but twice. When it came time for Sisyphus to die, he tricked Thanatos, the god of death, into binding himself with his own chains, preventing anyone from dying. This disruption of the natural order enraged Zeus, who eventually freed Thanatos and restored balance. But Sisyphus's cunning didn't end there. Before his second death, he instructed his wife not to perform the proper burial rites, allowing him to plead with Persephone, queen of the underworld, to return to the living world. Once back among the living, Sisyphus refused to return to the underworld, forcing the gods to drag him back by force, is punishment for his defiance. Sisyphus was condemned to an eternity of rolling a massive boulder up a hill, only for it to roll back down every time he neared the summit. His story has become a symbol of futile labor and the human struggle against insurmountable odds. The tale of Sisyphus also raises profound philosophical questions. Is his punishment truly meaningless, or is there value in the struggle itself? The French philosopher Albert Camus famously interpreted Sisyphus's plight as a metaphor for the human condition, arguing that we must imagine Sisyphus happy, finding purpose in the act of resistance itself. These myths not only entertained the ancient Greeks, but also served as a moral compass, guiding their understanding of right and wrong, good and evil. By exploring these tales, we gain insight into the complexities of the human condition, the balance of power in the cosmos, and the consequences of our actions. And as we continue to grapple with these timeless questions, we are reminded of the enduring legacy of Greek mythology and its power to shape our worldview. The realm of the dead, the netherworld, the great beyond, whatever you choose to call it, this mysterious realm has fascinated mankind since we first contemplated our own mortality, and nowhere is this fascination more evident than in ancient Greece, where the realm of the dead was not merely a place of shadows and spirits, but a vibrant, complex world with its own rules, customs, and even geography. In today's episode, let's explore the intricate and fascinating world of the Greek underworld. Welcome to our channel, where we bring you the most thrilling and enigmatic aspects of history's greatest civilizations. Today, we re-dive in deep into the rich tapestry of Greek mythology, and specifically, the shadowy realm of Hades. Now, let's begin our journey into the heart of darkness. At the center of the underworld was Hades, the god of the dead, often depicted carrying a staff or holding the key to the underworld. Hades was a stern, serious figure who demanded respect and order in his domain. Despite his fearsome reputation, Hades wasn't evil. In fact, he played a crucial role in maintaining balance in the cosmos. After all, the realm of the dead was as essential as the realms of the living and of the afterlife. The dead, as it was believed, could influence the world of the living, and Hades kept a watchful eye on both realms. The entrance to hell was located in a place called the House of Hades. It was hidden away, shrouded in mystery, and approached with reverence and sometimes fear. For those who had lived good and virtuous lives, the approach to the underworld might have been tinged with sadness at the thought of leaving the joys of the mortal realm behind. But overall, there would have been a sense of peace and acceptance knowing that they had lived a fulfilling life and were now moving on to the next stage of their journey. On the other hand, for those who had lived lives filled with wickedness and sin, the approach to the underworld would have been filled with dread and terror. The realization that their time was up and that they would now face the consequences of their actions would have been a chilling prospect. The closer they got to the underworld, the more intense their fear would become. Upon entering Hades, the newly dead would first encounter the Furies. These terrifying creatures were the embodiment of guilt and retribution, and their presence was a stark reminder of the price one paid for a life of sin. Next, they would come across the three judges of the underworld, who would determine their ultimate fate. The process of judgment was a solemn and serious affair. Each soul was weighed against the standard of justice, and the verdict was final. Those who had lived good and virtuous lives would be rewarded with a blissful existence in the Elysian fields, a paradise where they could enjoy eternal peace and happiness. Conversely, those who had lived lives of wickedness and sin would be subjected to unspeakable punishments in Tartarus, a dark and desolate prison where they would be tormented for all eternity. The punishments in Tartarus were as varied as the sins of humanity, but all of them were designed to inflict maximum suffering. Some souls were chained to chariots, flayed alive, while others were forced to roll huge stones up hills, only to watch them roll down again. Some were trapped in caves filled with poisonous snakes, while others were locked in coffins, forced to relive their mortal lives over and over again. But not all souls were so fortunate. For those who had lived neither particularly good nor bad lives, their existence in the underworld was one of endless wandering. They were condemned to wander the earth for eternity, forever searching for peace, but never finding it. This punishment may sound bleak and terrifying, but for the ancient Greeks, it was actually seen as a kind of mercy. To be sent to Tartarus was considered an infinitely worse fate. So remember, as you navigate your own journey through life, that every action has a consequence. Live a life of virtue and goodness, and you can look forward to a peaceful existence in the afterlife. Live a life of wickedness and sin, and you may just end up in Tartarus. Greek mythology is not just a collection of stories about gods, heroes, and the afterlife. It is also deeply intertwined with the natural world. The Greeks used myths to explain natural phenomena, the origins of the world, and the forces of nature they observed around them. From the creation of the cosmos to the birth of rivers, mountains, and stars, these myths reveal the Greeks' attempt to make sense of their environment and their place within it. One of the most famous myths about the creation of the world is the story of chaos and the primordial gods. In the beginning, there was chaos, a vast, formless void. From chaos emerged the first primordial deities, Gaia Tartarus, Eras, Naix, and Erebus. Gaia, the personification of the earth, gave birth to Uranus, and together they became the first divine couple, creating the Titans, the Cyclopes, and the Hecate. The relationship between Gaia and Uranus was far from harmonious. Uranus, fearing his children's power, imprisoned the Cyclopes and Hecate and Chias deep within the earth. Enraged, Gaia plotted against him, enlisting her son Cronus, the youngest of the Titans, to overthrow his father. Cronus ambushed Uranus, castrating him with a sickle, and from Uranus's blood sprang the Erinyes and the This violent act marked the beginning of a new era, with Cronus ascending to power as the ruler of the cosmos. But Cronus's reign was also marked by fear and paranoia. Like his father, he feared being overthrown by his own children. To prevent this, he swallowed each of his offspring as they were born. His wife, Rhea, heartbroken by the loss of her children, devised a plan to save her youngest son, Zeus. She tricked Cronus by giving him a stone wrapped in swaddling clothes, which he swallowed, believing it to be the infant Zeus. Rhea secretly hid Zeus on the island of Crete, where he was raised by nymphs and fed by the goat. When Zeus reached adulthood, he returned to confront Cronus, forcing him to regurgitate his siblings, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. Together, they waged war against the Titans in a conflict known as the Titanomachy, ultimately defeating them and establishing the rule of the Olympian gods. This myth of creation reflects the Greeks' understanding of the world as a place shaped by cycles of chaos and order, conflict and resolution. It also highlights the importance of familial bonds, even in the face of betrayal and violence, as the Olympians worked together to overthrow their tyrannical father and create a new cosmic order. The Greeks also used mythology to explain specific natural phenomena, such as the origins of rivers, mountains, and stars. Many rivers, for instance, were believed to be personified as gods or the transformed forms of mortals. The river Achelous, the largest river in Greece, was said to be a shape-shifting god who once fought Heracles for the hand of Demeter. When Heracles defeated him, Achelous fled in the form of a bull, and one of his horns was broken off, later becoming the cornucopia, or horn of plenty. Another famous story involves the river Alpheus and the nymph Ara. According to the myth, Alpheus, a river god, fell in love with Arethusa, a beautiful nymph who wanted nothing to do with him. To escape his pursuit, she prayed to Artemis, who transformed her into a spring. But Alpheus, undeterred, merged his waters with hers, creating a connection between the river Alpheus in Greece and the spring of Arethusa on the island of Ortygia in Sicily. This myth was the Greeks' way of explaining the phenomenon of underwater currents that seemed to connect distant bodies of water. Mountains, too, were often associated with divine or heroic origins. For example, Mount Olympus, the highest mountain in Greece, was believed to be the home of the Olympian gods, a place shrouded in mystery and majesty. Other mountains were linked to specific myths, such as Mount Parnassus, sacred to Apollo and the Muses, and Mount Ida, where Zeus was said to have been raised. The Greeks also looked to the stars and constellations for inspiration, creating myths to explain their patterns and movements. Many constellations were believed to represent figures from mythology, immortalized in the night sky. One well-known example is the story of Orion, a great hunter who was placed among the stars after his death. According to one version of the myth, Orion boasted that he could kill every animal on Earth, angering Gaia, who sent a giant scorpion to kill him. Both Orion and the scorpion were placed in the heavens as constellations, forever chasing each other across the sky. Another famous constellation myth is that of Callisto, a nymph who caught the attention of Zeus. When Hera discovered their affair, she transformed Callisto into a bear. Later, Callisto's son, Arcas, nearly killed her while hunting, but Zeus intervened. placing both mother and son in the sky as the constellations Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. These myths about the natural world revealed the Greeks' deep connection to their environment and their desire to find meaning in the world around them. By weaving stories around rivers, mountains, and stars, they created a sense of wonder and order, transforming the chaos of nature into something familiar and comprehensible. At the same time, these myths remind us of the power and unpredictability of the natural world. Rivers can nourish and sustain life, but they can also flood and destroy. Mountains can inspire awe, but they can also be treacherous and unforgiving. The stars may seem eternal and unchanging, but they are also distant and mysterious, reminding us of our smallness in the vastness of the universe. Through their mythology, the Greeks sought to bridge the gap between humanity and nature, creating stories that celebrated the beauty and power of the world, while acknowledging its dangers and mysteries. These myths continue to resonate today, reminding us of our own connection to the natural world and the stories we tell to make sense of it. Greek mythology is a vast and captivating world filled with gods, heroes, and monsters. While the tales of the Olympians and their interactions with mortals have fascinated readers for centuries, there's another aspect of Greek mythology that equally deserves our attention: the concept of heroism. Unlike the immortal gods, Greek heroes are mortal, yet they play a pivotal role in shaping the narratives of Greek mythology. They embody the values, beliefs, and struggles of the ancient Greeks, offering us a window into their culture and worldview. But what makes these heroes so compelling? What qualities do they possess that have made them endure through time? And what can their stories teach us about ourselves and the world around us? Let us explore some of the key aspects of Greek heroism and the lessons we can learn from these timeless tales. First of all, Greek mythology explores the idea that heroes come in different forms. They aren't always strong and battle-ready, but can also be clever and resourceful. Take Odysseus, for instance. He might not have been the strongest or the fastest, but his brains helped him beat the giants and monsters that got in his way. Now, you might think of superheroes when you hear that, but back in Greece, being a hero wasn't about having superpowers. It was more about doing cool things and helping people, like when Odysseus and his crew escaped the scary Cyclops, Polyphemus, or when he resisted the Sireness' deadly song. These stories tell us that being a hero isn't just about physical strength. It's also about being smart and careful. It means solving problems and protecting others, even when things look really bad. It's about making hard choices and facing scary stuff with bravery. Sometimes being a hero isn't easy, and it can be confusing, like when Odysseus wanted to go home, but had to choose between two scary monsters, Scylla and Charybdis. He knew no matter what he chose, some of his crew would get hurt. Being a hero isn't always about winning. It's about trying to do what's right, even if you can't win. It's about facing your fears and trying to make the world a better place, even if you don't always succeed. Another thing to note is that, unlike the immortal gods, Greek heroes are deeply flawed. They get angry, make mistakes, and sometimes even hurt innocent people. They're not perfect, just like us, but that's what makes them so interesting and real. Heroes in Greek mythology are complex and sometimes even scary. Think about Achilles, the greatest warrior in the Trojan War. He was amazing at fighting, but he also had a really big ego. He was so proud and wanted to be the best that when he didn't get what he wanted, he got really angry and stopped helping the Greeks. This made Achilles more human, even though he was part god. He showed that even the strongest and smartest people can be defeated by their own minds. His story reminds us to stay humble and kind, especially when things don't go our way. We can learn from his mistakes and try to be better, kinder people. Greek mythology teaches us that being a hero isn't just about winning battles or getting the most glory. It's about facing challenges with courage, using your strengths, accepting your weaknesses, and always trying to do the right thing. It's about being brave enough to face your fears and make hard decisions, smart enough to solve problems with your mind, and caring enough to protect those who can't protect themselves. It's about never giving up, even when things look really tough. So the next time you read about Heracles, Odysseus, Achilles, or any of the other heroes of Greek mythology, ask yourself, what does this story teach me about myself? How can I be a better hero in my own story? Remember, you don't need superpowers to be a hero. All you need is a brave heart and a willingness to help others. You can be a hero, too. In addition to the tales of gods and heroes, Greek mythology is deeply rooted in the exploration of human emotions and relationships. Love, jealousy, betrayal, and loyalty are recurring themes that drive many of the myths, showcasing the complexities of human nature and the challenges of interpersonal connections. These stories not only entertain but also offer profound insights into the human condition. One of the most famous love stories in Greek mythology is the tale of Orpheus and Eurydice. Orpheus was a legendary musician and poet whose songs could charm even the gods and nature itself. He fell deeply in love with Eurydice, a beautiful nymph, and the two were happily married. However, their happiness was short-lived. Eurydice was bitten by a snake and died, descending into the underworld. Devastated by her death, Orpheus resolved to bring her back. Armed with his lyre, he journeyed to the underworld and played such sorrowful and beautiful music that even Hades, the god of the dead, and Persephone, queen of the underworld, were moved. They agreed to allow Eurydice to return to the living world, but on one condition: Orpheus must not look back at her until they had both reached the surface. As Orpheus led Eurydice out of the underworld, doubt and anxiety began to consume him. Unable to resist, he turned to look at her just before they reached the surface, breaking the condition of their release. Eurydice vanished back into the underworld, leaving Orpheus alone and heartbroken. This tragic tale highlights the fragility of love and the consequences of doubt and impatience, reminding us of the importance of trust and faith in relationships. Another poignant love story is that of Pygmalion and Galatea. Pygmalion was a sculptor who became disillusioned with women, believing them to be flawed and unworthy of his affection. Instead, he devoted himself to his art, creating a statue of a woman so beautiful and perfect that he fell in love with it. Pygmalion's love for the statue was so intense that he prayed to Aphrodite, the goddess of love, to bring it to life. Moved by his devotion, Aphrodite granted his wish, transforming the statue into a living woman named Galatea. Pygmalion and Galatea were married and lived happily together, proving that love can transcend boundaries and inspire miracles. This myth explores the transformative power of love and the idea that beauty and perfection can be found in unexpected places. Greek mythology also delves into the darker side of love, particularly jealousy and betrayal. The story of Medea and Jason is one of the most dramatic examples of love turned to vengeance. Medea, a sorceress and the daughter of King Aetes of Chalcis, fell in love with Jason and helped him obtain the Golden Fleece. Using her magic to overcome impossible challenges, she even betrayed her own family to aid Jason, killing her brother to ensure their escape. However, after years of marriage and bearing Jason's children, Medea was betrayed. When Jason abandoned her to marry another woman, Glos, the daughter of the king of Corinth, enraged by his betrayal, Medea unleashed her fury, killing Glos and her father with a poisoned robe and crown. In her most shocking act of revenge, she killed her own children to punish Jason, leaving him devastated and alone. Medea's story is a powerful exploration of the destructive potential of love and betrayal. It challenges us to consider the consequences of broken trust and the lengths to which someone might go when consumed by anger and grief. Medea is both a victim and a villain, embodying the complexities of human emotion and the duality of love and vengeance. Another tale of jealousy and rivalry is the story of Paris and Helen, which led to the Trojan War. Paris, a prince of Troy, was chosen by Zeus to judge a contest between three goddesses, Athena and Aphrodite, each of whom offered him a bribe. Hera promised power, Athena promised wisdom and victory in battle, and Aphrodite promised the love of the most beautiful woman in the world. Paris chose Aphrodite, who rewarded him with Helen, the wife of King Menelaus of Sparta. Paris's abduction of Helen sparked a conflict that lasted for 10 years, resulting in immense suffering and loss on both sides. The story of Paris and Helen is a cautionary tale about the consequences of desire and the destructive power of jealousy and rivalry. It also highlights the fragility of human relationships and the devastating impact of choices driven by selfishness and passion. Greek mythology doesn't shy away from exploring the complexities of familial relationships, particularly the tension between parents and children. The story of Oedipus is one of the most famous examples of this theme. Oedipus, the son of King Laius and Queen Jocasta of Thebes, was doomed by a prophecy that foretold he would kill his father and marry his mother. To prevent the prophecy, Laius and Jocasta abandoned Oedipus as a baby, leaving him to die. However, he was rescued and raised by another family, unaware of his true origins. As an adult, Oedipus unknowingly fulfilled the prophecy, killing Laius in a chance encounter and later marrying Jocasta, his biological mother. When the truth was revealed, Jocasta took her own life, and Oedipus blinded himself in despair. His story is a tragic exploration of fate, free will, and the consequences of trying to escape destiny. It raises profound questions about the limits of human agency and the inevitability of certain events. Sibling relationships also play a significant role in Greek mythology, often marked by rivalry, loyalty, or betrayal. The story of Castor and Pollux, the twin sons of Zeus and Leda, is a touching example of brotherly love. Castor was mortal, while Pollux was immortal, and the two were inseparable. When Castor was killed, Pollux begged Zeus to let him share his immortality with his brother, leading to their transformation into the constellation Gemini. Their story symbolizes the bond between siblings and the sacrifices we make for those we love. Through these myths, the Greeks explored the full spectrum of human emotions and relationships, from the joy and beauty of love to the pain of betrayal and the complexities of family dynamics. These stories continue to resonate because they reflect universal truths about the human experience, reminding us of our capacity for both greatness and failure, compassion and cruelty. Greek mythology's enduring appeal lies in its ability to capture the essence of what it means to be human. By weaving tales of gods and mortals' love and loss, triumph and tragedy, Greeks created a rich tapestry of stories that continue to inspire and challenge, with offering timeless lessons about life, relationships, and the power of the human spirit. Greek mythology also serves as a profound exploration of morality, justice, and the consequences of human actions. Many myths revolve around the concept of hubris, or excessive pride and arrogance, and the punishment that inevitably follows. These cautionary tales reflect the Greeks' belief in maintaining balance and respecting the natural order, as well as the gods' authority over mortals. One of the most famous examples of hubris is the story of Icarus and Daedalus. Daedalus, a brilliant inventor, crafted wings made of feathers and wax for himself and his son, Icarus, to escape the labyrinth of Crete. Before their flight, Daedalus warned Icarus not to fly too close to the sun, as the heat would melt the wax. Overcome by pride and exhilaration, Icarus ignored his father's warning and soared higher and higher, only for his wings to melt. He fell into the sea and drowned, leaving Daedalus to mourn his loss. The story of Icarus is a timeless reminder of the dangers of overconfidence and the importance of heeding advice and limitations. It reflects the Greek view that hubris leads to downfall, as mortals who overreach their boundaries are punished for defying the natural order. Another cautionary tale of hubris is the myth of Arachne, a talented mortal weaver who dared to challenge the goddess Athena to a weaving contest. Arachne's work was flawless, but her arrogance in claiming superiority angered Athena. As punishment, Athena transformed Arachne into a spider, condemning her to weave webs for eternity. This myth underscores the importance of humility and respect for the gods, as well as the consequences of excessive pride. The theme of justice is also central to Greek mythology, particularly in the stories of divine retribution and judgment. The Erinyes, for example, were goddesses of vengeance who pursued those who committed heinous crimes, such as murder or betrayal of family. They were relentless in their pursuit of justice, ensuring that no crime went unpunished. The Erinyes symbolized the Greeks' belief in moral accountability and the idea that actions have consequences, even beyond death. One of the most striking examples of divine justice is the story of Tantalus, a mortal king who offended the gods by serving them the flesh of his own son, Pelops, at a feast. In response, the gods not only restored Pelops to life, but also condemned Tantalus to eternal punishment in the underworld. He was made to stand in a pool of water beneath a fruit tree, but whenever he tried to drink or eat, the water and fruit would recede, leaving him in perpetual torment. This myth serves as a stark warning against impiety and the violation of sacred bonds. Similarly, the story of Sisyphus illustrates the consequences of deceit and defiance of the gods. Sisyphus, a cunning king, repeatedly tricked the gods, even cheating death itself. As punishment, he was condemned to an eternity of rolling a boulder up a hill, only for it to roll back down each time he neared the top. His endless struggle symbolizes the futility of defying divine authority and the inevitability of justice. Greek mythology also explores the concept of fate, or Moira, and its inescapable nature. The Fates' three goddesses named Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos control the destiny of every mortal and immortal being. Clotho spun the thread of life, Lachesis measured its length, and atropos cut it, determining the moment of death. Even the gods were subject to the fates, emphasizing the Greeks' belief in the power of destiny and the limits of free will. The tension between fate and free will is a recurring theme in myths, such as the story of Oedipus. Despite his efforts to avoid the prophecy that he would kill his father and marry his mother, Oedipus ultimately fulfilled it, suggesting that fate is unavoidable. However, his choices and actions along the way highlight the role of free will in shaping one's journey, even if the ultimate outcome is predetermined. Another myth that explores fate is the story of Perseus, the hero who slayed Medusa, the Gorgon whose gaze turned people to stone. Perseus's quest was guided by the gods, particularly Athena and Hermes, who provided him with the tools he needed to succeed, such as a reflective shield and winged sandals. Despite the gods' assistance, Perseus's courage and resourcefulness were crucial to his victory, showing that while fate may set the stage, individual effort and determination play a vital role in achieving one's destiny. The interplay between fate and human agency is also evident in the Trojan War, particularly in the story of Achilles. Although Achilles was fated to die young, he chose to fight in the war, knowing it would bring him eternal glory. His decision reflects the Greek ideal of embracing one's fate with courage and striving for greatness, even in the face of inevitable death. Greek mythology's exploration of morality, justice, and fate offers profound lessons about the human experience. These stories challenge us to consider the consequences of our actions, the limits of our power, and the importance of humility and respect for the natural order. They remind us that while we may not control our ultimate destiny, we have the power to shape our journey and leave a lasting legacy. At the heart of these myths is a deep understanding of the human condition, our struggles, triumphs, and the choices we make in the face of adversity. By examining these timeless themes, Greek mythology continues to inspire and resonate, offering insights into the complexities of life and the enduring power of the human spirit. Greek mythology also delves deeply into the concept of the afterlife and humanity's relationship with death. The Greeks believed in a complex and layered underworld, ruled by Hades, the god of the dead, and his queen, Persephone. This realm, known as the underworld, was not simply a place of torment or reward, but a nuanced landscape that reflected the beliefs and values of Greek culture. Through myths about the afterlife, the Greeks explored themes of morality, justice, and the eternal consequences of one's actions in life. The underworld was divided into several regions, each serving a different purpose. Souls of the dead were guided to the underworld by Hermes, acting as a upon arrival, they were ferried across the river Styx by Curragh, the grim ferryman who required payment in the form of a coin placed in the mouth of the deceased. Those who could not pay were said to wander the shores of the Styx for eternity, highlighting the importance of proper burial rites in Greek culture. Once in the underworld, souls were judged by 3 judges, Minos. These judges determined the fate of each soul based on their deeds in life. The virtuous and heroic were sent to the Elysian fields, a paradise of eternal peace and happiness. Those who had committed heinous crimes or offended the gods were condemned to Tartarus, a dark and torturous abyss reserved for the wicked. The majority of souls, however, went to the Asphodel Meadows, a neutral and shadowy realm where they existed in a state of monotony, neither punished nor rewarded. One of the most vivid depictions of the afterlife is found in the myth of Persephone, the daughter of Demeter, the goddess of agriculture, was abducted by Hades and taken to the underworld to be his queen. Her mother, devastated by her disappearance, caused the earth to wither, bringing about a great famine. In response, Zeus intervened and brokered a compromise. Persephone would spend part of the year with Hades in the underworld and the rest with her mother on earth. This myth explains the cycle of the seasons, with Persephone's time in the underworld corresponding to winter and her return to earth marking the arrival of spring. The story of Persephone also explores themes of life, death, and rebirth. As the queen of the underworld, she represents the duality of existence, both the inevitability of death and the promise of renewal. Her myth reflects the Greeks' understanding of the natural world and their belief in the interconnectedness of life and death. Another powerful tale of the afterlife is the story of Sisyphus, whose punishment in Tartarus has become a symbol of futility and perseverance. As mentioned earlier, Sisyphus was condemned to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity, only for it to roll back down each time he neared the top. His punishment reflects the Greek belief in the consequences of deceit and defiance of the gods. Yet, His story also resonates on a philosophical level, as later thinkers like Albert Camus interpreted Zeus' plight as a metaphor for the human struggle to find meaning in a seemingly indifferent universe. The underworld also served as the setting for heroic journeys and quests, offering a glimpse into the mysteries of death and the human desire to overcome it. One of the most famous examples is the story of Orpheus, who ventured into the underworld to retrieve his beloved Eurydice. His failure to bring her back, caused by his inability to trust and obey the god's command, underscores the fragility of hope and the finality of death. Similarly, the hero Heracles undertook a perilous journey to the underworld as part of his 12 labors. His task was to capture Cerberus, the three-headed guard dog of Hades, and bring him to the surface. Heracles succeeded through his immense strength and courage, proving himself worthy of immortality. His journey symbolizes the hero's ability to confront death and emerge victorious, embodying the Greek ideal of bravery in the face of the unknown. Another notable journey to the underworld is that of Odysseus, recounted in Homer's Odyssey. Odysseus travels to the land of the dead to seek guidance from the prophet Tyr. During his visit, he encounters the spirits of fallen comrades, including Achilles and Agamemnon, as well as his own mother. This episode, known as the offers a poignant reflection on mortality and the longing for connection with those who have passed. It also emphasizes the importance of memory and legacy, as the dead continue to influence the living through their stories and wisdom. The Greeks' depiction of the afterlife was not limited to punishment and reward, but also included the possibility of reincarnation. According to some myths, souls in the Elysian fields could choose to be reborn, continuing the cycle of life and death. This idea is explored in the philosophy of Plato, who described a vision of the afterlife in his dialogue The Republic. In the myth of a soldier named R is given a glimpse of the afterlife and the process by which souls choose their next lives. This myth reflects the Greeks' belief in the cyclical nature of existence and the idea that one's choices in life shape their destiny. The underworld also served as a metaphor for the human psyche, representing the darker, hidden aspects of the self. Myths set in the underworld often involve themes of introspection, transformation, and the confrontation of inner fears. Heroes who journeyed to the underworld and returned were often changed by the experience, gaining new wisdom or understanding. This transformation mirrors the human journey of growth and self-discovery, as we confront our own mortality and seek meaning in our lives. Through their myths of the afterlife, the Greeks grappled with fundamental questions about existence, morality, and the nature of the soul. These stories reflect their deep curiosity about what lies beyond death and their desire to understand the mysteries of the universe. At the same time, they offer timeless lessons about the importance of living a virtuous life, honoring the gods, and accepting the inevitability of death as part of the human experience. Greek mythology's exploration of the afterlife continues to fascinate and inspire, offering a rich tapestry of stories that challenge us to reflect on our own beliefs about life, death, and what comes after. By weaving together themes of morality, justice, and transformation, these myths remind us of the enduring power of storytelling to illuminate the deepest truths of the human condition. Greek mythology not only explores the realms of gods, heroes, and the afterlife, but also delves into the creation of the world and the origins of humanity. These creation myths provide a foundation for understanding the Greeks' worldview, their relationship with the divine, and their place in the cosmos. Through these stories, the Greeks sought to explain natural phenomena, the origins of life, and the structure of the universe. The creation of the world. Chaos. To cosmos, Greek mythology begins with chaos, a primordial void, and the source of all existence. From chaos emerged the first primordial deities, Gaia, Tartarus, Eros, Nyx, and Ereb. Gaia, as the personification of earth, gave birth to Uranus, and together they became the first divine couple, symbolizing the union of earth and sky. Gaia and Uranus produced many offspring, including the Titans, the Cyclopes, and the Hecate. However, Uranus, fearing the power of his children, imprisoned them deep within Gaia, causing her immense pain. In response, Gaia conspired with her son Cronus, the youngest of the Titans, to overthrow Uranus. Armed with a sickle crafted by Gaia, Cronus ambushed Uranus and castrated him, thus ending his reign. From Uranus's blood sprang the Erinyes, the giants, and the while his severed genitals, cast into the sea, gave rise to Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. Cronus became the ruler of the cosmos, ushering in the Golden Age, a time of peace and prosperity. However, like his father, Cronus was plagued by the fear of being overthrown by his own children. To prevent this, he swallowed each of his offspring as they were born. His wife, Rhea, desperate to save her youngest child, Zeus tricked Cronus by giving him a stone wrapped in swaddling clothes to swallow instead. Rhea hid Zeus on the island of Crete, where he was raised in secret. When Zeus reached adulthood, he confronted Cronus and forced him to regurgitate his siblings, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. Together, they waged a great war against the Titans, known as the with the help of the Cyclopes, who forged powerful weapons for them. The Olympians emerged victorious. The Titans were defeated and imprisoned in Tartarus, and Zeus became the supreme ruler of the cosmos, establishing the reign of the Olympian gods. This myth of creation reflects the Greeks' understanding of the universe as a progression from chaos to order, with each generation of gods representing a new phase in the development of the cosmos. It also highlights the recurring theme of intergenerational conflict, as younger gods rise to challenge and overthrow their predecessors. The creation of humanity. The Greeks told several myths about the origins of humanity, each offering a different perspective on the relationship between mortals and the gods. One of the most well-known creation myths is the story of Prometheus, the Titan who defied Zeus to bring fire to humanity. According to the myth, Prometheus and his brother Epimetheus were tasked with creating humans and animals. Epimetheus distributed qualities such as speed, strength, and flight to the animals, but by the time he reached humans, he had nothing left to give. To compensate, Prometheus fashioned humans in the image of the gods and gave them the gift of fire, enabling them to survive and thrive. Zeus, however, was enraged by Prometheus's actions, as fire was a divine gift meant only for the gods. As punishment, Zeus chained Prometheus to a rock, where an eagle would devour his liver each day, only for it to regenerate overnight. Prometheus's torment continued until he was eventually freed by her. This myth portrays Prometheus as a symbol of human ingenuity and defiance, as well as the suffering that often accompanies progress and innovation. Another myth about the creation of humanity is the story of the 5 ages of man, as recounted by the poet Hesiod in his Works and Days. According to Hesiod, humanity passed through 5 successive ages, each marked by a decline in morality and virtue, the Golden Age. During Cronus's reign, humans lived in harmony with the gods. They were free from toil, suffering, and death, and their spirits lived on as benevolent guardians of the living. The Silver Age. Under Zeus's rule, humans became less noble and more they failed to honor the gods and were ultimately destroyed. The Bronze Age. This age was marked by violence and warfare. Humans were strong and aggressive, but their obsession with conflict led to their downfall. The Heroic Age. This age produced the great heroes of Greek mythology, such as Heracles, Perseus, and Achilles. Although it was a time of greatness, it was also marked by tragedy and suffering. The Iron Age, Hesiod's own time, characterized by hardship, greed, and moral decay. Humans toiled endlessly and were plagued by strife and injustice. The myth of the 5 ages reflects the Greeks' belief in a decline from an idealized past to a more corrupt present. It also serves as a moral commentary on human behavior, emphasizing the importance of honoring the gods and living virtuously. Pandora and the origin of suffering. Another key myth about humanity's origins is the story of Pandora, the first woman, created by Zeus as a punishment for humanity after Prometheus's theft of fire. Zeus ordered Hephaestus to mold Pandora from clay and endowed her with beauty, charm, and cunning. She was given a jar containing all the evils of the world and sent to Earth as a gift to Epic, who accepted her despite Prometheus's warnings. Out of curiosity, Pandora opened the jar, releasing sickness, death, and suffering into the world. However, she closed it just in time to trap hope inside, leaving humanity with a small measure of comfort amidst their struggles. The story of Pandora explains the origins of human suffering, while also emphasizing the enduring power of hope as a source of resilience and perseverance. The role of humanity in Greek mythology. In Greek mythology, humans occupy a unique position between the gods and the natural world. While they are mortal and subject to the whims of the gods, they also possess intelligence, creativity, and the capacity for greatness. Many myths celebrate human ingenuity and resilience, as seen in the stories of Prometheus, Odysseus, and Daedalus. At the same time, they cautioned against hubris and the dangers of overstepping one's bounds. Through their creation myths, the Greeks explored profound questions about the nature of existence, the origins of suffering, and humanity's relationship with the divine. These stories continue to resonate because they address universal themes and offer timeless lessons about the human condition. Greek mythology is not just a collection of stories about gods and heroes, but also an essential part of ancient Greek culture and society. These tales profoundly influenced Greek art, literature, philosophy, and religion, leaving a lasting legacy on Western civilization. The influence of Greek mythology on art and literature. Greek mythology served as an endless source of inspiration for art and literature. Ancient Greek artists often depicted gods, heroes, and scenes from mythology on murals, pottery, and sculptures. These images were not only works of art, but also a way to convey stories and cultural values. In literature, Greek mythology formed the foundation for many classic works. Poets such as Homer and Hesiod used mythology to build great literary masterpieces like the Iliad, the Odyssey. These stories not only entertained, but also provided moral lessons and philosophical insights about life, war, and the relationship between humans and gods. Mythology also appeared in the plays of renowned playwrights such as Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. These plays often revolved around the tragedies and conflicts in mythology, delving deeply into human psychology and morality. For example, Sophocles' play, Oedipus Rex, not only tells the tragic fate of Oedipus, but also raises questions about destiny and free will. Influence on philosophy and thought. Greek mythology also had a profound impact on philosophy and thought. Philosophers such as Plato and Aristotle used mythology to illustrate and explain their philosophical perspectives. Plato, in his work The Republic, recounted the myth of Ar to discuss the soul and immortality, while Aristotle frequently referenced mythological characters and stories in his philosophical writings. Mythology provided a way for the Greeks to ponder life's big questions, such as the nature of justice, ethics, and existence. These stories were not merely entertainment, but also a medium for exploring abstract concepts in philosophy. Influence on religion and customs. In ancient Greek religion, mythology played a crucial role in shaping and maintaining religious rituals and customs. Stories about gods and heroes were often reenacted in festivals and ceremonies to honor and seek the protection of the gods. For example, the Olympic Games originally were part of religious rituals dedicated to Zeus. Mythology also helped reinforce social values and norms. Stories of loyalty, bravery, and sacrifice were often used to educate and instill virtues that Greek society valued. The gods and heroes in mythology were often seen as role models to emulate or cautionary figures to avoid. The lasting legacy of Greek mythology. The legacy of Greek mythology remains vibrant in modern culture. Mythological stories and characters have become part of popular culture, appearing in films, books, and contemporary art. Greek mythology is not just a part of the past, but also a source of inspiration for new creations, from literary works like Percy Jackson to films like Clash of the Titans. Additionally, Greek mythology has influenced Western language and culture. Many words and phrases in English, such as Achilles' heel or Herculean task, originate from Greek mythology. These stories have become part of a shared cultural heritage, connecting generations and different cultures. By exploring universal themes and profound questions about life, Greek mythology continues to challenge, inspire, and enrich our understanding of the world and human nature. These stories remind us of the enduring power of imagination and humanity's ability to create meaning from chaos.